Guys, we're in East Providence this morning, and last week we were working on all of our exterior trim, and what we have going on is our roof rakes and our fascia. That's all that dark gray material that you see up there, which is a Doug fir that's been stained. Julia's actually stained it for us prior to install. And you guys have asked about why doesn't this house have overhangs? Well, we obviously have the epic 4-foot overhang on the back, but now you're starting to see the overhang that is being developed on the front. Here is kind of step one. We have our framing installed as well as our soffit, which is a clear Doug fir soffit, which will stay a natural color. But then our fascia, which is that step one of that fascia, is dark gray. You look over here, you actually see what I'm calling step one and step two, the step two of that fascia. And behind that second board is actually this gutter right here. This is an extruded aluminum gutter. It's made by Duragutta. This is where my accent comes out. I cannot prevent that from happening. But it's an extruded aluminum gutter, which is really cool because typically with a sheet metal gutter, you're typically having to install it and then put it on a slight slant so it drains to a particular location. The manufacturer said that this can be installed perfectly flat and level, and ultimately the water will get evaporated, anything that does get trapped in there. But due to the fact it's so stiff that the water can stay, it kind of pulls out evenly, where the sheet metal might have ups and downs and then you get that puddling. But behind that second piece of trim is actually that gutter. So Julia has designed a really, really cool integrated gutter detail. I'm a big fan of it because when you're looking at the roof and then you have this really nice gray trim, to install a sheet metal gutter on top of that, a traditional K-style gutter, even if it was white, even if it was painted to match, it just doesn't have that refined look as this does. Alternatively, you could actually use this product as your second layer of trim, which is actually what we were exploring in the very early phases of this job, being that this right here could be your second piece of trim because it is a nice square profile. But why don't we climb up on the ladder? Here we have our clear natural Doug fir soffit below. Then we have our 1x on top, our first layer, and then we have a second 1x right here. 1x is 1x4, 1x6. Nominally, it actually measures 3/4 of an inch if you don't already know that. But this right here actually covers that extruded aluminum gutter back here. You can see it's black in color. The color doesn't actually matter because everything is in fact covered. Let me remind you guys, this roof system here, number one, there's 1/2-inch plywood right here, which is that zip board. There's 2 layers of 3-inch Rockwool, which is our 6 inches of exterior insulation. Then we have our wet guard, which is basically our membrane on top of the roof. And then we have our sheathing and then framing. So there's 6 inches of insulation underneath here. And this was actually prepped for the Tesla roof. So we had a lot of flashing details. If you've seen the Tesla system, there can be some complex flashing details, especially when you get into integrating gutters and making a more customized roof edge. Tesla, we've talked about that in the last episode. We are forgoing that due to supply chain issues and just being able to get that. And we've switched to an asphalt roof. So we'll be doing an asphalt roof on here. We had to adjust some things, but we still need to be able to transition from this plywood into this gutter, and you see all this raw wood here. So ultimately what's going to happen is that this will get taped and sealed to the roof. But Mark Jordan, our sheet metal sub, he's fabricated a piece of sheet metal that will come down the roof edge, down, and actually clip into this extruded aluminum gutter. Now you have that nice continuous metal edge that clips into the gutter, making sure all the water gets into the gutter system itself. Oftentimes we see with the applied gutters that are installed after the fact, water getting behind, that can rot your fascia board, you can deal with issues. So having that custom piece of bent sheet metal, again, just make sure that the water gets in there. Additionally, we also have this aluminum to wood edge. We definitely do not want water getting behind here and draining out in between the boards. That's just going to cause issues with the stain. It's also going to cause issues with drip marks. It's just not going to look that great. So Mark's actually fabricated a piece of U-shaped sheet metal that will clip onto the gutter and then snap over and then cap this nice. So any water that does make its way, maybe to this edge, again, is not getting trapped. It's hitting a nice piece of intentional sheet metal. Now, if you look in the middle where I'm pointing here, that's actually our downspout location. So normally you would have a gutter outboard, you'd have a downspout coming out, an elbow going back, and then down the wall. But instead, the way this is designed and fabricated is that our downspout will drop out of the bottom of that, come out of our soffit straight down into that black corrugated pipe there. And if you guys remember way back when we did site work, that black corrugated pipe goes around the entire home and actually goes out to a rock or future rock garden in the back. All of our rainwater collection is done through that drainage system and goes to a rock garden. What's a rock garden? Basically, it's where there will be oversized rocks where all of the water runoff goes into and basically disperses and then recharges the ground, rather than just completely washing out dirt or loose gravel. If it was just shooting down the hill, it would just continue to erode that hill over time due to the water. The rock garden is actually going to help prevent that. So with that being said, that's our fascia detail, that's our integrated gutter detail, and then behind me we also have our rake detail. And this right here actually has a leading edge. So this is actually a 5/4 material, which means it's a full 1 inch thick. And behind this we actually strapped to allow for our shingles to tuck behind it. Reminder guys, this exposed CDX siding, the H clips you guys have asked about again, this is our second layer of sheathing. So behind this we have 2 layers of Rockwool comfort board, and then our WRB, which is the Siga MyVest SA, which is self-adhered, and then our structural sheathing. So this right here will get another membrane, and what that membrane will be is actually a Benjamin Obdyke Slicker Max. So it's self-adhered and it gives us our rain screen. Why a different product? Well, simply because we're looking for a rain screen material, and we do want it to handle bulk water and drain that bulk water down to what is our copper flashing down at our foundation. So any water that makes its way through that shingle will be able to drain. Another nice thing about doing something such as that rain screen behind that cedar shingle, it's going to make the finish on the shingles last a lot longer because they can dry and they're not going to hold moisture, especially tight up against this. So we will have that second membrane that covers this. We're going to be installing it with our shingles, mainly because that product cannot be out in the UV for much longer than, I believe it's 30 days. So we don't want it to degrade over time. We'll install it right before shingles, which is actually coming up in here in the next 2 weeks. But why don't we hop down? So Brian just corrected me. He overheard me filming this. It's actually not the Slicker Max, it's the Slicker HP, which is a self-adhere product. So I was wrong, as I usually am. So this gutter right here has been cut to length. You can see, again, that profile. There's end caps that actually slide into the end, and then you seal either end. Really simple to put together. And this one's actually going to go up right in front of the garage here. And what you can see, again, is a little bit closer, is how we have our framing that jets out. We have our sub fascia and then our first layer of fascia, and then our gutter will actually sit on top of that. Again, that's perfectly level across. Our gutter will sit on top of that. It'll be prepped for a downspout, and in this case, we'll actually kick our downspout back and then into the corrugated black pipe over there, and then we'll put our second piece of trim and then tie everything in with the sheet metal. But you guys are probably staring at the beautiful garage door. Our buddy over at Designer Garage Doors, Eric, and his team came out last week to install this. So it's a cedar V-groove solid wood garage door. Really, really beautiful. It's one of those things that, was kind of a splurge in the project, in the sense of, hey, this is going to be a real focal point. The garage is on the face of the home. We want it to look really nice, and juxtaposed against the gray shingle, it's going to look really nice, and it's going to tie in really nice with our natural soffits. So between the natural garage door and the soffits, as well as the two-tone gray between the trim and the shingles, as well as the shown windows, it's going to look really nice and settle in with the neighborhood really well. Appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned in next week when we check in here at our Rhode Island passive build.